Your average gym rat knows about one thing when it comes to water, and that's the fact he needs to drink it. Now, Anatoly knows the importance of hydration, not only the fact that you have to have a certain amount in your body, but the fact that you have to have a certain amount of minerals in the actual water you're drinking, that you have to plug and play based on your activity level, the weather outside, the temperature. So many things have to come together. Even the food you're eating, if you're having food that contains more water, you have to completely change. I fell into the water rabbit hole thanks to a content creator called Hamza. I'm sure some of you guys might know him. And he mentioned something about the tap water being polluted by birth control. So basically, tap water is potable water, which means, like, imagine this, you go pee to the toilet and that water is being sent somewhere, and then it gets filtered so many times that water is essentially just normal drinking water. Like, it's no longer contaminated with your urine and all the bacteria and all that. And it's, I mean, we used to actually drive by it. When we went to a friend's house, we would drive past the Thames ones they had, and they were just like these big squares, and they would just be like different colors of water. And growing up, I didn't really understand what was going on, apart from that it smelled a little bit weird. But it was only until school where we actually went through the process and we kind of watched a video on the entire transformation. Like, they threw like this sort of bacteria into the water. The bacteria like eats all the bad stuff, and then they killed the bacteria or something. I don't know. It's kind of like yogurt. Who knows? But here's the thing. As good as filtering water is, it misses some stuff. And one of the things it misses is birth control, estradiol. So someone on birth control pees in the water supply and it doesn't get filtered. And this is a harmful chemical to us. It's not great to have. And so when we're having tap water, we're getting compounds like that, and potentially other compounds which also aren't great. Which is why it's always good, bare minimum, just having, actionable step right now. If you're going to take anything away from this, find a way to get a water jug. Literally, it's super cheap. You just have to change the filters every now and then. If you get a water jug, you will start removing some of these pollutants. It won't get everything because, nothing's perfect, but you're going to be improving your health. What really makes me sick is the fact that they know that this is something that's in the water, right? They know about this and how it has harmful effects. And they know about tons of other things in the water that have harmful effects. And yet they won't. They won't fix it. Reason being, they have this certain percentage of like how much damage the water can do to you. And so long as it's below like the legal standard, they don't have to do anything. It's not about making the water perfect. It's just about making it not damaging, right? And that is so ridiculous. The fact that this could potentially in years and years and years have unforeseen consequences. It could affect fertility rates. It could affect cognitive development. It could affect so many things. It could even, not only prevent evolution, but start doing the opposite and get like revolution or whatever. It's probably not revolution, but that is what we should do. We should revolt against these companies. It's all public, so obviously they don't want to spend money and they want to spend it. But it's so sad because they know this is a problem and they can fix it. They can put a lot of money into fixing this problem. And the only reason they don't is because it's too expensive. I think it's so sad. And I bet all these people who are involved in this decision where they know actually what's going on, I bet they don't let their kids drink tap water. I bet they have some massive elaborate filtration system. Who knows what it may be. Or they probably buy bottled water, because let's be honest, the second you know how the meat's made, you don't eat it. When I first found out about this, it was that sort of thing. Like, I could no longer have tap water anymore. It was just impossible. And so what I did is, we've been using a water jug for years, but truth is, my mum does not change the filter as much as she should. And I mean, that's one of those things where, that's bound to happen when you let your parents control something which is health related. But the whole reason they get a jug in the first place is to prevent negative health, and then yet they don't stay on top of it. It's kind of like, honestly, I think a lot of these things are peace of mind, and my approach to it probably is also peace of mind, but it's a lot more peace of mind, and it helps me keep my water as pure as possible. And so what I do is I have something called a water distiller, and along down the line when I get some more money, I'm planning on getting something called like a reverse osmosis filter, which will literally do this process for me when it comes out the tap, so I won't have to worry about like running some machine. But this machine, uses, I know, back to like key stage 3 science, it uses condensation and evaporation. So it evaporates the water, but it leaves everything behind, right? All the sediment, all the chemicals, or whatnot. And the steam goes up, the pure water, or like 99.99, who cares? That almost pure water, like very, very almost pure, more pure than potable water from like the weird big squares or something, that goes into this kind of fan which cools it, and then it comes out, like it drops out into this container. And this entire process, it takes like 3 hours for 4 liters. But you're left with a strange tasting water because it's literally pure water. And at first it's a bit warm. I actually really don't like running it, especially in summer, because it is so hot, and the amount of heat it gives off, because obviously you're heating water, makes my entire room just boiling. Like, it's absolutely horrible. But it's something I have to put up with if I want my water to be better. And I think the side effects of being hot, I probably have peace of mind because I don't know how bad they are. And if I did, I'd probably implement so many other things. But at the end of the day, it just comes to the fact that to really be authentic, I don't have the money. I don't even have the money to like do the whole water distilling thing, but it's too ingrained in me. It's like when I was younger, my dad told me that putting my phone in my coat pocket would like give me heart cancer or lung cancer or something, and I couldn't do it. Like I'd almost get like a panic attack or like a weird feeling in my lungs when I put my phone there in like my blazer pocket, just because I'd be instilled in that. And I can't live in like fear, right? Like I can't live in anxiety every time I drink water because I have the belief that it's going to harm me. Like I just can't do it. And my approach may be extreme, but at the end of the day, it's preventing me from much more harm. Like, let's be real. Cortisol is one of the biggest things that can mess you up. And I'd recommend like watching a lot of my videos, because a lot of it is talking about how to reduce the effect cortisol has on your body, you know, how to train hard, how to get the most out of training with the least amount of damage. So here's another actionable step for you. I want you to, earlier I got you to make sure that you can get a water jug. Now I want you to check out if you can get a purer form of water, if you can afford it, if it's in your means. So this could be something like getting bottled water from the store. It could be something like a reverse osmosis filter or a water distiller if you're going a bit more extreme. But that is not the only actionable step for you. The second actionable step is you need to find a way to add minerals back to your water, because we're stripping it of all of that, and that's not great. So we need to find a way to bring it in, and we can get electrolyte formulas. They do pretty good. Or what I personally do is I have a recipe of magnesium, potassium, and sodium, which I just throw into my water. And varying levels exist, which I'll talk about later. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about the effects it actually has. Like, hydration is very, very important. Maintaining that balance in our body. Hydration is basically one of the ways we transport active ingredients almost that our cells are going to use. And if they're not getting that properly, if they don't have proper hydration levels, we actually get a lot weaker. Like, this is an actionable step, but it's something you could try. If you don't drink for a day, and then you do a workout, you are much weaker than last week just because you're dehydrated. Like, it makes such a huge effect. And if you ever want to try that, I don't recommend it. It's not, do not try this at home. It's very unsafe. But if you were to do it, or you did it by accident, the difference would be so clear. Like, it'd be night and day, and you'd question why you're even in the gym, to be completely honest. So I'm going to give you a plan of action of how to make the best water possible. Step 1 is going to be buying yourself the water filter, whether that be reverse osmosis, water distiller, who cares? Just find something that you can control all the variables of. So that's like changing the filters or making sure it's always running. So, something where it's like your parents aren't getting involved and they're not replacing the filters and you're not really doing anything. It's just peace of mind, which if you're spending money on this sort of thing, you should be doing the upkeep, right? Because otherwise, why would you even do the initial investment? Which kind of reminds me, I need to change out my carbon filter on my water distiller soon. Oh well, that's my own personal problem, I guess. Step 2 is, now that we've got this pure water, we need to make sure that we're drinking it. So this is probably honestly more important than step 1, 100% more important than step 1. We need to start drinking enough water. And the way I like doing this is, for every calorie a day we burn, should be a milliliter drunk. And if we take something like creatine, we should throw in an extra 500 milliliters. And if we're not reaching that, like, I'd recommend actually having a habit tracker and literally like ticking it off every single day. But if we're not reaching that amount, and especially when it's hot a little bit more, then we're not giving our body what it needs. And if it's not performing properly, like, why do you think that is? Why do you think you're not getting as strong as you could? Why do you think you're getting exertion headaches in the gym? Why aren't you getting the gains you deserve? Because you don't deserve them. It's just that simple. Hydration is one of many, many factors. And the next step is actually an important one because, you know, we spoke about the filtration system. Now we need to talk about how to improve the water. So I actually made a video. You can search it on my title, on my channel, and it's called Best Electrolyte something. If you type Best Electrolyte, it should come up. And that explains something called snake juice, which I came across years and years and years ago. This guy, I didn't steal it because I credit the guy, but he was like a keto nerd, you know the keto nerd. And it would be like, when you're doing your keto fast and you're not eating for 5 days in a row, you need to have this. And he like gave the recipe. And so it's literally made for our body to survive on the minerals inside when you're getting dehydrated by not eating. You know, you're not getting any of your natural potassium, sodium, or magnesium, and so you need to supplement it in a drink, you know, in the right ratios that your body deserves and craves, so that you're not like passing out of dehydration because you're only getting water in and none of the other stuff. And so that's what makes it such a useful thing. With this though, don't have it more than once a day. And what I mean by this is it has everything perfectly for like one dose for all you'll need in the entire day. And what I typically do is you have a couple ways you can do this. You can do it in the morning, which is like something I'd recommend on a rest day, or you can do it with your training, which is my personal favorite way, is it also like improves the pump and it gives you like a glorious pump. And I've spoken a lot about my pumps here and like how they tear my skin, and they don't actually tear my skin, but how it feels like it's tearing my skin, and they're always immaculate and they're impressive. And that is one of the ways I do it, by actually having my snake juice. So I'm going to give you another step here, and this step is not very important, but it is very long-term important. The short term won't matter, the long term will definitely matter. And that's you gotta keep tracking your food. I know this about water, and that's a bit strange, but if you remember earlier, we spoke about how the amount of water you need is directly tied to the amount of energy you exert. And so if you're not tracking your calories properly, if you're not able to look at your food and go, okay, so it says I'm in a 300 calorie surplus, but my weight has only gone up, or like my weight's gone down potentially, that means that my energy exertion is actually higher. And so if we look at these two factors, we can recalculate our new maintenance, and then we can work out, okay, we need to drink a bit more. And so that's why it's long-term important, but obviously in the short term, it doesn't really matter for your hydration levels if you have like a somewhat notion of a grasp on it. But long-term, that's when it really starts to matter, because we're trying to get like 1% better every day with our hydration, and that takes data. Like, you can't improve without data. Data is one of the best things you can use, and I will say it again and again and again on this channel. As much as I think training is important, and training is literally so easy in the principles because you're just always going to failure. But if we were to track that data, the thing we'd be aiming for is failure, and there's no way we can like plan for that or track for that. So it's almost like it's our only place in fitness which doesn't need data. Like, sure, we can track the workouts and we can read the reps, but if you had like an idea of the weight used last week and you had an idea of how many reps you got, then you could probably plan workouts pretty easily, just fail and not really have to write anything down. Like, why do you need to know if you're progressively overloading if you're continuously going to failure? You're probably going to get stronger, and if not, it's going to be the cause of something outside. And if you're tracking everything outside, then you don't have to track the inside. It's pretty awesome how it all comes together. But of course, building systems that work all this out take years and years and years and years. But I give you that chance. But I give you that task, so good luck.